Half-Life Alyx is considered to be one of the greatest VR games to date. But how does it run on an RTX 3080 and a Ryzen 5 5600X CPU with 32 GB of DDR4 3600 MHz RAM? Let's take a look.
Immersed robot.
I started my initial tests using an in-game graphics setting of high and pushing a refresh rate in the Valve Index headset of 144 Hz. Starting the game from the beginning, I was presented with the impressive opening scene, looking out over the city. This game uses dynamic resolution scaling depending on your system's performance overhead, and it doesn't seem to be affected by Steam VR super sampling at all. This is fine and seems to work extremely well on the whole, but it doesn't really allow you to fine-tune your setup. Also, unlike many other games, changing refresh rate in the headset doesn't seem to have an effect until you restart the game. I was a little confused by this as I was certain this wasn't the case when I first played the game at launch. I may very well be wrong about that, though, as that is certainly how it seemed to work while testing today. Dips in frame rate were sporadic and commonplace in this opening scene at 144 Hz. But if I didn't have the FPS VR overlay screaming this fact at me constantly, then I doubt I would have been aware. Everything seemed to be smoothed so effectively within the headset that I would have been able to play quite happily and completely oblivious to these inconsistencies. I'm not sure if these jumps are due to the dynamic resolution scaling at work or whether something else is causing these drops, but in spite of how it appears on the overlay, everything felt rock solid. Looking at the frame timing graphs now, it appears the drops are primarily due to CPU spikes than anything else and might be due to some physics interactions, but this is hard to say. Let's check out a few minutes of gameplay at 144 Hz refresh rate on high graphical settings to get a clearer image on how things run overall. I'll comment shortly in this video as we dive into other settings.
What is it?
This doesn't seem like a routine sweep. Are you sure everything went okay?
100%.
Something's got the CPs riled up.
Keep your head down and be smart.
Wait, I just live here. Wait, don't shoot.
You didn't steal anything. No one! I didn't see anyone!
Dad! Hey, wait, no!
Wait, where's Dad?
He's fine. Follow the drone.
So, Dad's okay, right?
Yeah, well, no. To be honest, he's in shock.
But,
They've still got him. He was in a separate transport.
and you saved me?
Well, yes. I had no way of knowing who was in which van, so... Yes, the result was that I saved you.
Do we know where they're taking him?
Criminal holding. And then, when they realize he's Eli Vance, to Nova Prospect. But I'm already working on a plan to get him back. You're close to my lab. Keep following the drone. We'll figure out what to do.
I decided to drop the refresh rate down to 120 Hz and play through those last few minutes again to get a clear comparison. CPU load initially seemed much lower, and GPU was fractionally reduced. This might be because dynamic resolution scaling was at work, pushing the GPU to the same extent as 144 Hz as it increased overall resolution slightly.
You saved me?
Well, yes. I had no way of knowing who was in which van, so... Yes, the result was that I saved you.
Do we know where they're taking him?
Criminal holding.
Looking at the frame timing graphs again in this section, the CPU spikes still occur, but it seems the processor handles them slightly better for the most part.
Keep following the drone. We'll figure out what to do.
CPU usage takes a big hit in this section with Russell, and performance drops quite significantly. It settles down after a while, but overall this scene with Russell tends to give a good benchmark for performance as you go through the discussion with him. This, for whatever reason, seems to be a very demanding scene. Needless to say, the graphics in this game are quite incredible throughout, and the complexity of the Russell NPC may be a significant reason as to why this scene pushes the system as far as it does. Let's watch a little more before I adjust in-game settings slightly to see their effect.
And if he gets on that train, that's it, right?
Not necessarily. Grab something that represents us. Okay, that's you.
I thought you said us.
Well, one of us, me, will have to stay here for this plan to work.
All right, fair enough.
Just outside, there's a second train that also leads out of City 17 through the quarantine zone.
Okay.
Both trains intersect here at Fairview Junction. You take your train, get there before his train, and hack into the controls. That'll let me take over the system. Train comes to a halt, you deal with the Combine situation, and we get your dad back.
Sounds good. Where's the train I'm taking?
Out the back, through the yard. It's decommissioned, but I think I can hack into its controls. Oh, and get yourself a pair of Russells on the way out.
Russells?
The gloves, Alyx. You know, the gravity gloves. I have a few sets through there. You can calibrate them out by the shed.
Got it.
We can do this, Alyx. You got that, didn't you? I said we could do it, because we're gonna do it.
Yeah, we are.
I'm with you every step of the way. Alright, you know how this goes. There should be a bunch of junk down there. Aim at something with your hand open. Registered. Now flick your wrist to bring it in. Now catch it. Boom. Yep. Great. Try again. Targeted. Close your hand. That's it. One more time. You've got it. Just a little flick of the wrist. That's it. Perfect. We're done. Oh, wait. I almost forgot.
Alyx, up here! You're gonna need a gun! Don't worry, it's unloaded. It's unloaded now! Oh, almost forgot. Guns need ammo. Here you go. Right, heading back to the cold room.
Oh, you took care of that lock then. Good. Great. Did have the key for it, but should have given you that. That's on me.
In this section I alternate in-game settings between low and ultra to get a perspective on their influence in game performance and fidelity. To be perfectly honest with you, altering these settings between the two extremes changed very little in my experience. Frame rate may have been slightly more consistent on low, especially with the spiking CPU-bound frames, but there really wasn't much in it. Also, the game looked incredible in both settings with very little noticeable difference. The dynamic scaling may have been at a higher base than on ultra settings due to the extra load on post-processing etc., but I honestly couldn't tell. In conclusion, Half-Life Alyx is an incredible looking game, no matter what in-game graphical settings you choose to run. Frame rate can be a little sporadic in places at these higher refresh rates, and this primarily seems to be down to the CPU, at least on my system. I do have to say however, that in spite of the FPS VR showing dropped and reprojected frames, the experience in the headset, more than any other game I've tested, was exceptionally good. Thank you for checking this out, and I hope this gives you an idea of what kind of performance you can expect on an RTX 3080 with a Ryzen 5600X. Well, that's pretty much it for this video. Please hesitantly tap the like button, and if it's not too much of an inconvenience, then please also subscribe to this channel for more VR-focused content. I'll see you all on the flippity flip.